Now to the situation in Gaza, where Israeli forces claim to have found a tunnel shaft underneath the region's biggest hospital as part of its precise and targeted operations around Al-Shifa hospital.
It comes as the IDF claim to have found the body of a hostage in a structure outside the hospital. Troops have identified her as Yehudit Weiss, who was taken by Hamas in their October 7th attacks in southern Israel. Joining us now live from Tel Aviv is Zvika Klein, Deputy Editor-in-Chief of the Jerusalem Post. Zvika, some significant developments overnight. What more can you tell us about the hostage whose body was found yesterday?
So actually, good morning. And this morning, we actually found out that there was another hostage, Noah Marziano, whose body was also located near the Al-Shifa hospital. Noah Marziano is a name that's a little bit more known since just a few days ago, Hamas released a video of her from the fourth day, allegedly the fourth day of after the attack. But also in that video showed a dead body of her. In a very type of ISIS way of creating videos to create a little bit of hope for their family and then showing their bodies. So definitely, there are developments of finding, unfortunately, dead bodies of Israeli civilians as well as Israeli soldiers, young Israeli soldiers, in the area of the Al-Shifa hospital. And as well as Yehudit Weiss, as we see here, in the picture, was a grandmother who was just taken out of her home in the middle of the morning, a civilian. So it's a very difficult time in Israel, but also at the same time, the tunnels in the hospital and the hospital itself had many information that was very important for the Israeli intelligence. The understanding is that the Hamas terrorists actually held many or part of the hostages in this hospital. And because they were urged, citizens were urged to leave the area or leave the hospital if they weren't, in immediate medical emergency. The understanding is that part of the hostages were there and were taken from there with the Hamas terrorists.
Can I just jump in? We were led to believe that this was the epicenter of Hamas's operation. Now, as you say, they found a tunnel shaft. It's hardly turning out to be an epicenter. Meanwhile, hundreds of patients are still at that site. They cannot get the treatment they need. So there is real collateral damage here. There is real human suffering as a result. We also now know there's a lack of fuel as well. Did the IDF get this wrong, do you think?
So I think the IDF, again, the way I see it is the IDF, as you said, expected this to be more of an epicenter than it is or seems to be, even though intelligence-wise has been very valuable. The IDF has tried in many ways to be over-the-top humane and has been begging, people in these areas in Gaza to leave the area for a month and a half in order for them not to be injured. The Israeli army also brought in Arab-speaking medical professionals and doctors in order to offer assistance to the hospital in order to help with humanitarian needs. At the beginning, they actually were not willing to accept this type of assistance. I do agree that there were higher expectations than we've seen.
And meanwhile, Benjamin Netanyahu has said that while Israel's doing all it can to minimize civilian casualties, it had not, in his words, been successful. I mean, it's not exactly reassuring, is it? And I wonder how long the international community's tolerance will last for.
I think the international community's patience is slowly or quickly kind of, it's less than what it was at the beginning of the war. And I think Israeli officials understand that on the one hand. But on the other hand, Hamas has really, there's many evidence and videos and documentation showing how Hamas would not let these civilians leave the areas. And I mean, the IDF sent out flyers text messages, announcements on loudspeaker for people to leave the area in order for them not to be injured. I'd have to say that I don't think that the British or American armies in Afghanistan, operated in the same way. They were looking for terrorists and they did anything they can, to find those terrorists. So, we have close to 240 hostages, most of them civilians. And as a country, again, I'm speaking as a journalist, I don't represent the government, but as a country, we want to find them and we want to get them. And Hamas has really been very active and holding the civilians there. I mean, in the hospital, they found missiles under baby cribs and in strollers, etc. So, I mean, obviously, we're not talking about a regular situation. It's a terrorist organization.
Zvika Klein, thank you very much indeed for talking to us here this morning.